Welcome to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. Are you over 40 and tired of struggling with your weight, dieting, and constantly feeling like you're starting over with nutrition and fitness? Do you wish you had more energy? Do you want to lose weight and finally keep it off for good? I'm Lil, a certified nutrition coach and former registered nurse. I too have been there, and at the age of 44, I decided I was done with fad diets and chasing a lower number on the scale. I was so tired of constantly starting over and wondering why I couldn't get lasting results. I became a nutrition coach and created the Feel Your Best formula for women who want to build muscle, lose fat, and keep it off for good. If you're ready to build a better relationship with food, the scale, and your body, let's build your formula for feeling your best. If you're new here, make sure to check the episode details for the link to my newbie starter guide. You'll receive an email straight to your inbox with everything you need to start building your Feel Your Best formula. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hello, welcome to episode 27 of the Feel Your Best formula. Today, we are going to be talking about the best foods for weight loss. And I know when it comes to losing weight, this is a huge question that everyone has. What should I be eating? But before we get started, I want to be super clear that honestly, there's no specific food that is better or worse for weight loss. Generally speaking, of course, there are certain types of foods that are going to nourish your body, help you be full and satisfied, and that you enjoy. And those are the foods that ultimately you want to include in your fat loss or weight loss phase. Definitely, if you have not already, please head on over to last week's episode 26, before you embark on any weight loss goals, because it's really important to make sure that it's the right time for you to be making this commitment. And absolutely, on this episode, we're going to talk about foods, and we're going to talk about how certain foods can help you be more successful at weight loss. But anytime you see someone saying, if you want to lose weight, you must do it by eating these 10 foods and things like that, it's just nonsense. They have no idea what they're talking about, and they're just trying to sell you on something that has no scientific basis. But we're going to go over all of this, and I think before we get started, it's really just important to review the fact that when it comes to weight loss, there's no magic pill, there's no secret formula. It's really just about consuming fewer calories than your body burns. And you could literally do that eating donuts. It would probably be a really miserable experience. You'd be hungry, you'd be cranky, and have horrible energy levels. But if you just ate donuts and you ate less calories than your body needed, your body would lose weight. So I'll just review energy balance and how that works, even though I've discussed this in depth in other episodes. But a quick review is that when you are gaining, maintaining, or losing weight, it's just literally all about energy balance. Your body burns a certain amount of energy. It needs this energy just to keep you alive, digest your food, keep your heart beating, keep breathing, all those tiny little microscopic chemical reactions that are happening in your body, burn calories, burn energy. And then you also may add on top of that doing your workouts, and then just any additional daily activity, walking around, going to the grocery store, doing chores, things like that. And all that adds up to determine how much energy your body needs just to maintain where it is. And this is an individualized thing, and it can be estimated with calculations using your age, height, weight, and activity level. But there isn't really a super specific way to measure this for the general population. For the average person that wants to lose weight, doing a calculation is the best estimate that we can do. And then how does your body get that energy? Well, really just from one way, from the foods you eat. And if you eat too much energy, your body stores it as fat and you gain weight. Or you could also eat more energy than your body needs, but be doing an intentional strength training program with the intention of that extra body mass because you're building muscle. And so, yes, the scale will go up because you're increasing your muscle mass. You're also going to be gaining a little bit of body fat during that process. It's virtually impossible to just say you're only going to build muscle. And if you eat around the same amount of energy your body needs to just maintain where you are, then you're just going to stay the same. And if you cut back on the energies you consume, then you're going to lose weight, you're going to lose body mass. People, diets, all kinds of companies out there, they create diets for weight loss, and sometimes they try to sell you on thinking that they have some special magic formula. But at the end of the day, whether it's a very simple diet or it's a complicated diet, the only reason that diet is going to cause someone to lose weight is because they're ultimately going to end up consuming less calories over time than their body needs to maintain where it is. And the body could be losing muscle, water, along with fat, depending how much you are cutting out of that daily intake. So whether you're doing keto, whether you're just counting calories, doing intermittent fasting, paleo, Whole30, a detox, like whatever, you are losing weight because you're eating less calories than your body needs to maintain it where it is. So as much as someone may be trying to convince you that there's some other reason for it and they have some magic formula, it's all nonsense. It's just because you're eating less calories. And you can do this in an extreme way where you are eating so many less calories than your body needs, and you're going to lose weight quicker that way. Or you could literally just eat 100 calories less per day than your body needs, and you would still lose weight, but it would be a slower process. And for both of these options to work, whether you are slashing a ton of calories or just cutting back a little bit of calories, the only way that you know if it's working is if you are very committed to it, you are sticking to the process. And a little bit later in this episode, I'm going to talk about why sometimes people think they are losing weight by eating more calories than they were previously. But in reality, that's really not true. You're never going to lose weight eating more calories than your body needs, because if that was true, then people would not have starved in concentration camps. There would not be starving children in the world right now. That is just not how it works. And it's almost a very privileged view to even attempt to say that if you live in a society where there is just copious amounts of food. Anyone out there who struggles every day to just get their basic caloric needs knows that that is just not true. That eating less does not cause you to gain weight. So I know a lot of diets out there try to confuse you and think that there's something special. I've shared this on my social media, but I want you to be aware that you're going to see the newest trend, the rising pseudoscience out there. The next fad diet is going to be someone telling you that their diet is going to balance your hormones and therefore it's going to make it easier to lose weight. But I'm warning you, unless you're working with an endocrinologist, which is a doctor that spends a minimum of 7 to 10 years studying one particular hormone system, then no one else out there can help you, quote unquote, balance your hormones. It's not really something you can do through diet. And just beware of anyone trying to sell you on a diet using that particular line of thought. If you do have a true hormone imbalance, then you should be working with either an endocrinologist, your gynecologist, getting blood work done, and monitoring more than just going on some restrictive diet. So being in perimenopause and menopause, which I know a lot of you listening to this are in that phase of your life, it doesn't change the rules of energy balance. And instead, it's really just more about lifestyle change, activity level change, and the way that your body is experiencing that day-to-day energy burn and intake. Our habits change over time. And just for example, I was on a college tour. I took my oldest son to my college. I went to UMass School of Nursing. And it was really exciting to go on that college tour and just, just relive for a moment such an awesome time in my life. I loved college, and it's crazy to look back on. I was so broke. I didn't have, 2 nickels to rub together. I worked at CVS 20 to 30 hours a week while going to school full time, while doing clinicals. I mean, it was totally nuts. But he was asking me all about walking around on campus and how far the classes are from the dorms and all of that. And I thought and then we were talking about the food on campus. And in college, I basically lived off of chicken patty sandwiches, burgers, and burritos. And I would go to lunch and I would eat, 2 huge sandwiches, all this food. If I sat down and ate that amount of food now, I probably wouldn't even be able to consume it. And at the same time, I was in really great shape. I weighed probably 30 or 40 pounds less than I do now. And you know why? It was because of my activity level. I had to walk 20 to 25 minutes across campus, walk to all these classes. I showed him how I worked at the downtown CVS. And I said, well, sometimes I had to walk if I couldn't catch the bus. I didn't have a car. And that was a few miles walking. And I didn't think anything of it at the time. But I look back and I think of, how I felt and how I looked and everything. And even though I wasn't putting any effort into it, that energy balance in my life was just naturally burning more calories, keeping me at a level where I was, really thin, because that just happened to be my lifestyle at that time. And honestly, I started gaining weight when I got a car and didn't have to walk as much when I moved off campus. And it was just kind of, we can glamorize certain points in our life where we looked a certain way or felt a certain way, but you really have to look at the reality of how you were spending that energy balance, how much you were eating, how much you were moving. And I don't live the way I did 25 years ago. So I can't expect for it to be quote unquote easy to have that same exact experience in my body. And instead, I have to look at where I am today and recognize that, yeah, I drive everywhere. I have to intentionally go on walks. I have to intentionally do my workouts, and just recognize that those times in your life when maybe you felt it was really easy and you glamorized the way you looked at that time, it's probably because you had a very different lifestyle. And as we age, we maybe have more income. Maybe you're going out to eat more. Maybe you're going out to drinks more. Maybe you're taking more vacations, and maybe your day-to-day life, you are just not burning off as many calories as you think you are with your day-to-day activity levels. So we can try to blame it on, perimenopause, menopause, but until you actually take a hard look at the foods you're eating and the way you're moving your body and really analyze that and get honest about it, you can't really totally blame it on those hormonal shifts. Okay. The other thing about people trying to sell you on hormone diets is that over dieting, cutting calories, having restrictive eating patterns over time is actually really harmful to your hormones and your body's homeostasis. So actually, you have to be really careful and make sure that what you're doing is actually not going to cause imbalances and more stress on the body. So I'll get off my soapbox, but let's dive into today's topic and talk about the best foods for weight loss, because that's what you came here for today. Now, like I said, there's no magic foods that you're going to eat them and you're just automatically going to lose weight. In fact, when you eat any type of food, you're going to be eating calories with them, even celery, which I know people like to say they're like a 0-calorie food. For me, it's a 0-calorie food. Celery is the only food I don't like to eat. I think it's disgusting. I hate the strings that stick in your teeth. I don't like to eat it, but there are no foods that are literally negative calories. But there are certain foods that can help you feel full and satisfied while consuming less calories. So let's go over those. Number one, veggies. Veggies are low in calories. They're often high in fiber. They have a ton of nutrients. So you're really going to nourish your body when you're eating veggies. Also, really important, maybe think about what variety of vegetables you're getting in your life. And if you're only eating one type of vegetable, try to branch out, try different things, especially salads are a great way where you can mix different veggies in. It's really good for your overall gut health to be eating different types of plants every day. So veggies, if you can have those leafy greens, broccoli, cauliflower, peppers, cabbage, all of those foods can really help fill you up, and they're going to be really low in calories. So you also have to make sure you're not dousing them in butter or dressings or cheese sauces and things like that. You can definitely include those items in your diet, but just make sure that you're tracking them and figuring out what amount really works for you. I really love things like lemon juice, a little bit of Parmesan cheese, some red pepper flakes, maybe some soy sauce. Those are great ways to flavor your veggies and really enjoy them without being bored. Next, fruits. And if anyone out there is telling you that fruits are making you fat, unfollow them. Fruits are so good for you. They're also going to be giving you a ton of nutrients. They're going to have a ton of fiber, and they just contain so many micronutrients that are so good for your body, and specifically fruits like raspberries, blueberries. Those are really awesome for everything that they provide to your body, and they are really high in fiber. Raspberries are one of the foods that is going to be highest in fiber. So make sure that you are getting a couple servings of fruit in every day at least. And next, we're going to talk about lean protein. And these are things like chicken, fish, turkey, egg whites, Greek yogurt, tofu, all those foods that, are protein, but making sure that you're looking for the leaner cuts, things like sausage, bacon, steak, depending on what type you purchase. If you can see a lot of marbling in it, then that's going to be higher in fat, higher in calories, and you're still going to get protein from it, but eating a large amount of that might put you over the calorie goal that you have for being in that fat loss phase. And things like Greek yogurt, you're also getting some calcium with that. Tofu is chock full of all kinds of good things. And you even get some, fiber along with the protein when you're eating things like edamame, which is just, the bean that tofu is made from. So lean protein is just awesome. It's also going to keep you full and satisfied. It takes longer to digest. Your body uses more energy to digest lean protein than it does other food items. So making sure that you're getting enough protein in is going to protect you from hopefully losing muscle mass during your fat loss phase. And it's just such an important, and for myself, it's what I prioritize during a fat loss phase. Now, let's talk about whole grains. And first off, there's no need to be gluten-free if you are not diagnosed with celiac disease or an allergy or something like that. Whole grains are amazing for you. Wheat is good for you. There's all kinds of micronutrients that you get from eating those foods. If you are eliminating those foods from your diet, then you are eliminating certain vitamins and minerals from your diet. So please do not cut bread out if you do not have a medical reason for it. But things like high fiber cereal, and then of course there's gluten-free items that are not wheat, but brown rice, quinoa, those are all high in fiber, and quinoa even has protein in it. So it can really help you feel full for a longer amount of time, similar to the lean protein, but whole grains are going to have that fiber in it that takes your body longer to break down and digest. Also, legumes can be a great food for weight loss, especially if you are vegan or vegetarian, because those are going to provide you with protein along with the fiber and also take a longer time to digest. I've said it before that chili is one of my favorite recipes. It's family friendly. You can make it low calorie, but really satisfying, and beans are an important component to chili. But legumes also, again, just provide some really great micronutrients that your body needs, and making them part of your overall diet is a very healthy choice. And finally, you may not have thought of this, but it's really important to approach weight loss with the same foods that you would like to maintain that weight loss. So a lot of diets out there, most of them actually have things like approved foods list, foods, anything that's not on the list, that is going to be off plan. So instead of cutting out so-called junk food treats and being quote unquote good while you're on your diet, I think it's really important to build in those foods that you love, because you're only going to maintain your weight the same way that you lose it. You'll be able to eat more of those foods when you get to maintenance, but during your weight loss phase, you're going to want to be fitting in certain favorite foods. You're going to want to, 90% of your calories to be full and satisfied. You want it to be those lean proteins and those high fiber, really filling foods, but save maybe about 10% of your daily calories for something like a little mini ice cream cone or an ice cream bonbon or a little square of chocolate or something like that. Or I just go to those things automatically because I have a sweet tooth. But if you're someone that really likes more savory foods, then maybe a mini bag of Doritos or something like that, and building that into your fat loss phase, and not saying to yourself, oh, I can't eat this because I'm being good and I'm losing weight. It's no, let's figure out a way to include it so that you're not feeling deprived. You're not going to feel tempted to binge, and you can enjoy the process of losing weight a little bit more. The most important factor when it comes to weight loss success and maintaining it is whether or not you can adhere to the plan. And you might hear people say anecdotally, oh, I finally lost weight when I started eating more. But like I said, that is not true. No one in the world is going to lose weight by eating more calories than their body needs. But by increasing the amount of calories that they're eating while still in a deficit, meaning, for example, in my deficit, I'm eating 300 calories less per day than my body needs to function. And in the past, I was on diets where I was slashing 500 to 700 calories per day, and I was very hungry. I was very irritable. I wasn't sleeping well. And of course, what did I do? I remember eating an entire sleeve of Girl Scout cookies one time, a whole thing of Thin Mints, because I just couldn't take it anymore. It was just really, really hard. But going easier on that process and only cutting back by 300 calories is much more doable, much more enjoyable, leaves me more room for having those things like a little ice cream treat, and it's just going to be easier to stick to in the long run. So it's important to think about that if you're approaching a weight loss plan and it just feels like you're really, really hungry all the time, and if you're not getting filled up by your actual meals, then either you're eating foods that are not filling enough or those calories that you're following are just way too low. When you're looking to start a fat loss phase, it's also really important to, number one, understand your macros and balance them according to the activity level that you're like. You can't lie about your activity level. You can't say, oh, I'm working out for an hour 7 days a week, because that activity level is going to have a big impact on what your ultimate calorie level is going to be. So you have to be really honest about that. And in order to maintain your muscle mass during a fat loss phase, if you're lifting weights, then you're really going to need to make sure you're eating adequate protein and just understanding those macros and how your body uses those macros, rather than just haphazardly slashing calories and hoping that everything turns out okay. Number two, you have to make sure that you're actually going to be in a calorie deficit. And a lot of one-size-fits-all plans just slash your calories so severely that it would be almost impossible to not lose weight by sticking to their plan. But in reality, no matter what calculation you use to determine what those numbers look like for you, it could be off. And especially if you're in, your late 30s, 40s, early 50s, or older, it might make some sense to spend some time in maintenance before you approach a weight loss phase, just to figure out where your metabolism lies. Do you have a faster metabolism than you think? Do you have a slower metabolism than you think? And that's something that I do when I work with my clients, rather than just saying, here you go, time to go lose some weight. Basically, you're going to figure out what your maintenance calories actually are before you enter that weight loss phase. Instead of just relying on calculations, you go through a process where you live in maintenance to figure out what that actually looks like. Some people literally just naturally have a higher metabolic rate. Some people have a slower rate. And those calculations, while they're a good estimate, you don't really know until you start tracking and trying to match that energy balance depending on your goals. So jumping in without knowing where you are could just make it a really miserable experience, especially if you are one of those people that has a higher metabolic rate. And then if you cut those calories so low, you are going to be so hungry. And number three, building your meal plan around whole foods, like those foods that we just listed above, but make sure to leave about 10% of your calories for those treats that you really enjoy. You want to be filling up on the high volume, low calorie foods like veggies, egg whites, Greek yogurt, leafy greens, cabbage, broccoli. All those things can help you feel full and satisfied. But don't just fill up on veggies. Also know that you have to prioritize that lean protein, and that's also going to leave you feeling really full and satisfied. And I start my meals by making sure I'm getting that protein in. And tracking your macros can give you that structure and clarity on exactly how much you need, so you aren't guessing along the way. If you're trying to guess how many calories, how much protein, how much fiber by just haphazardly trying to figure it out on your own, you are just wasting time. Why not just figure out what those numbers are and then enter that fat loss phase with confidence? And pay attention to the foods that not only leave you full, but also really satisfied. One example that I'll give here is I can fill up on egg whites all day long, and I could eat them and feel physically full, where your stomach is full and you don't you don't really feel like you could eat a whole lot more. But egg whites alone leave me really unsatisfied. So I've learned I have to mix in a whole egg with about a half cup of egg whites to feel satisfied. And as I mentioned, I really love a little something sweet after breakfast. Sorry, not after breakfast, after lunch and dinner. So having a little square of chocolate or just a mini ice cream treat, like there's so many little mini things available now. The little mini ice cream cones from Trader Joe's, I think, are 70 or 80 calories, and Blue Bunny also has a brand. And when I have just that little bit of sweetness after my meal, it leaves me so much just more satisfied, and I'm not tempted to go rummaging in the pantry or the fridge for more food. And that's, a psychological thing. You can feel physically full with eating massive amounts of low calorie food, but everyone's different, and you might just need that someone to tell you, guess what? It's okay. If you really want something sweet, go ahead and have that little treat afterwards. When I was on really strict diet, I was famous for going into the peanut butter jar at the end of the night because I felt like that was on the approved foods list. And I'd have a big spoonful of peanut butter because I was just craving it so badly. And now I don't worry about the fact that, peanut butter's on the approved foods list and these chocolates are not, because I don't eat that way anymore. And I just have the freaking piece of chocolate or the little mini ice cream cone, and I enjoy it and I move on. And it's just, I stop obsessing about food because I'm satisfied. So tracking your food, allowing yourself the foods you love, being full and satisfied with the foods that nourish your body is a very different approach, most likely, than how you've approached weight loss in the past. But if you want a different outcome, you've got to approach things differently. Just jumping into saying, oh, I'm just going to eat chicken, broccoli, and brown rice for dinner for the next 3 months and, just have all these food rules and think you're being good by cutting out all the foods that you think are making you fat. That is not the way to approach it. It just is a path to nowhere. So it's time to do things differently. Now, I know you may have come here hoping for some sort of checklist or shopping list or a list of all these magical foods that are going to make weight loss easy. And as I said, that does not exist, but you can always download my freebies, which are available on the homepage of my website. I have a free grocery list and you can start there, but the magic happens when you just take that first step, start investigating, have a curious attitude. Don't just look for everything to be done for you. You have to take responsibility for figuring out what actually works for you. And the foods that you enjoy are going to be different than me or someone else who is being successful with their nutrition. I look at people on social media all the time. One woman I follow just did a calorie deficit, a cut, if you will. And she shared the foods that she ate during that process. And I thought they looked revolting. And there was no way I would eat those foods. She really enjoys eating Honey Nut Cheerios. And I cannot stand Cheerios. So that is not something that would work for me. So if she was making me a plan and she told me that to get her results, I had to eat all the same things that she was eating, it would not work for me. And it's never going to work for you. If you follow people on social media because you want to have the body that they have, you have to understand that you could eat every single bite of food that they eat every day. You could do all the same exact workouts that they do, and you are still never going to look like that person. You are your own, unique individual snowflake. And it's really time to start taking on that responsibility of deciding what you want your experience to be like in your body. So it is time to do things differently. especially when it comes to getting to the end of your diet phase, which honestly should not last a super long time unless you have a really excess amount of body fat to lose. You really don't want to be in this phase of having to be so meticulous about your food, because you do have to really be on top of things when you are in a weight loss phase. But ultimately, you want to get to maintenance. And I think that is where diets have failed us. I have never done a diet that has taught me how to maintain it, how to live in maintenance. And that's why I started this process by living in maintenance first, being curious, learning about my body, learning about the foods that I liked before I even thought of tackling weight loss. So go and listen to last week's episode before you dive into any sort of fat loss phase. And if you're ever curious about macros or want to learn more about my coaching, then just go ahead and book a free 15-minute consultation with me, and we can see if that might be the right next step for you. I do have very limited spots with my one-to-one coaching where you sign up and work with me for 3 months because of the level of relationship and the time commitment that's involved. But if I have an opening, that is something that may be available to you, and it might be something that could really help you move towards the next level. I also do a one-time session where I will calculate your macros for you, and then you just run with it. And to be honest, most people who do that are people who already have a really strong handle on their fitness, and they just want to make sure that they're eating enough, that they're doing things that are moving them in the right direction. And then I have my group coaching, which might be a great option for you. If you're not ready to commit to the 3-month option, then we do a one-to-one session where you get started right with your macro calculations, and then you join my group community for a 6-week starter membership, and then you can always extend that membership for as long as you need to. So I do have different options, and if you're starting to think of things differently and you want to work with me, then all you have to do is reach out. Make sure to check the show notes of this episode, and I will see you here back next week. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check the episode details for my new listener starter guide, and any additional resources mentioned in the episode can also be found in the show notes on my website. You can always find me on Instagram at Macros with Lil, and for more healthy lifestyle tips, recipes, and information on my one-to-one and group coaching services, make sure to check out my website. All the links can be found below. If you know someone else who is ready to start building their formula for feeling their best, please share the love and send them a link to the podcast. I hope you found today's episode helpful, and I'll see you back here next week for a brand new one.